Well, my computer tells me it's the top of the hour. So hello, good afternoon if you're in the East Coast or Central Zone, if you're in Mountain Time or Pacific Time. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Barbara Merrill. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of ANCOR. And I get to open this up pretty quickly. I'm going to start handing it over to other members of our staff. But first, let me just take us through a couple of housekeeping notes, and then let's just do some introductions. So, I think you heard, the webinar is being recorded. We're doing that to benefit folks that aren't able to join us. To ensure sound quality, please, you know the drill, keep your microphone muted unless you're asking a question. And if you do want to ask a question, please use the chat button or the raise the hand feature and wait to be called on. The recording for today's webinar, along with the slide presentation, will be emailed to you pretty quickly. You know, we promised within 3 business days. I think we're a lot faster than that. And if you're experiencing any technical difficulties, just please let us know in the chat or send an email to ancor@ancor.org. If we on our end, the ANCOR end, start experiencing technical difficulties, we're just going to breathe in and breathe out and try to fix it. So it's just the world we all live in. So welcome to this member refresh. If you're joining us for the first time, thank you. If you have attended one of these member benefit webinars and just want to refresh, thank you also. We love doing it. We've lately been talking about the need to do them more frequently as our numbers grow. And as there's just a lot of aspects of how to engage in ANCOR membership that may strike you when you first become a member, but then you may forget about. So, you know, thus the need for, it's not just figuring out how to navigate the ANCOR connected community, but all the different opportunities to engage with us. But first and foremost, our mission. And we exist to support you. You know, that's it. It exists to advance the ability of our members to support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to fully participate in their communities. And how do we do that? Gab, if you could advance the slide. Here we just love to show our house. And in the middle of the house, you will see our 4 pillars, our 4 strategic pillars. They're holding up the roof. The roof is the mission that I just shared with you. The pillars are to influence responsible public policy to protect and promote quality services. The workforce pillar, and obviously there's always lots of overlap with the workforce pillar and our advocacy goals. But it's to obtain the resources to attract, expand, and retain a quality workforce. And our 3rd pillar, to serve as an indispensable resource to equip you and our partners to understand and respond to opportunities as you see them, emerging practices and trends in our field. And then finally, to be extra proactive in shaping the future of service delivery models and measures to ensure sustainable services. So those are the pillars holding up the roof. But as you all know, because you run organizations, we wouldn't be able to do any of this without our foundational elements, the keys to our strategies. And that's all about working to expand ANCOR's public profile, to expand our influence, to increase our geographic diversity and our service model diversity, to increase and enhance membership engagement. Thank you very much for tuning in and being part of this. We also work very intentionally to partner strategically. And this is our newest addition to our house. And it's to ensure inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, DEIA, are embedded throughout ANCOR's culture. I'm going to pause on that for a minute. The ANCOR Board of Directors last summer in editing and updating our strategic plan, our strategic house, felt that it was extremely important that our diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility work not be its own pillar, but rather it be embedded through everything that we do. So that's where you see it. And then finally, the cement that holds our foundational elements together, our foundational resources, investing and maintaining in appropriate technology, infrastructure in our systems, and ensuring that we're on a very strong financial footing. Next slide. All right, so here you see, this is your ANCOR staff. We're at your service. Today, joining us on this member benefits webinar is obviously myself. I'm going to be turning it over in a moment to Gabrielle Seedorf. But Shannon McCracken, our Vice President of Government Relations, is also joining us. We're also joined by Sean Lichtefeld, our Senior Director of Communications, and possibly a couple of other members of ANCOR staff have popped up. At this point, I'd just like to stop, and we're a small enough group. I would like to invite folks to introduce yourselves to us. And I invite you to do it in the way that you're the most comfortable. So we can do it popcorn style. You can unmute yourself and introduce yourself. You can also introduce yourselves in the chat. We're looking obviously for more than your name. We'd love to know where you're hailing from and the name of your organization. So popcorn style, who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Tuesday. Go ahead, Leah.
Sorry, I'm Leah McAlpine. I'm the main DSP of the year for the 2022, and I work for OHI. I've been with OHI in Bangor, Maine for 28.5 years.
Welcome, thank you.
Good morning, happy Tuesday, folks. My name is Jim Copeland. I'm the Executive Director of the New Mexico Association of Developmental Disabilities Community Providers, shortly called ADCAP, in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Hello.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lori Opila from UCP Seguin of Greater Chicago, and I'm our Chief Policy Research and Advocacy Officer. Glad to be here.
Thank you. And Bob Thureson has also introduced himself, and he's with the Mid-State ARC in Meridian, Connecticut. And Tim Stromble, forgive me, Tim, is with Taskmaster Pro. They're an IDD and aging documentation software platform that works with a whole lot of our members, and we partner strategically with them. And hello to another Barbara, Barbara Dodona, and she's the Director of Training and Communication at the Moore Center in Manchester, New Hampshire. And I'm a Mainer, so hello. And hello to Sheila Thurman. Does this sound like I'm auditioning for a public television auction? I've never done that before. I always thought it'd be fun. But thank you, Sheila. She's the Director of Nursing with the Developmental Disabilities Institute on Long Island in New York State. Amanda Cantu currently doesn't have a mic, but she comes to us from Sandusky, Ohio. She's the Director of Services from Ability Works. I love this. Tiffany Higgins. Hello, Tiffany. She's the Chief Operator, she's the COO from Imagine the Possibilities in Iowa. They're a statewide provider. Donna Garst with Mosaic. Hi, Donna, Vice President of Community Relations and International Services. Wow, folks, more and more folks are joining on. So I hope that this is helpful, me reading this aloud. You can always give us feedback and say thumbs up, thumbs down. We can read, Barbara. But Amy Tabor has joined us. She's the new Executive Director for the National Association of QIDPs. And Morgan Lowe, who serves as the HR generalist from another New Hampshire provider. And I cannot pronounce the name of that. Monadnock Developmental Services. Say that again.
Monadnock Developmental Services.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So many folks. So is there a heads up? Is there a thumbs up? Should I keep reading, or are folks good? Let's just have a quick thumbs up or thumbs down. Originally, we were thinking that we were a smaller group than we've become. All right. Well, why don't I think that we're just going to ask folks to read it because I want to make sure we have enough time to get through the presentation. All righty. Thank you. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to Gabrielle Cedor, who is our Chief Operations Officer. Thanks, Gab.
Sure. Hi, folks. I am ANCOR's Chief Operations Officer. I'm also the director of the ANCOR Foundation. I feel like I have to slip that in there because it is Giving Tuesday. And as one of our foundation members reminded me, we should always approach fundraising with an abundance mindset. So I know a lot of you are raising funds for your own organizations today, and you also have your own favorites, but I just wanted to put a plug out there for the ANCOR Foundation, which is a part of the ANCOR family. But let's talk about ANCOR. Collectively, we've got about 2,000 provider members. They all primarily support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. But like many of you that I recognize on today's call, you also support people with behavioral health needs, substance use, and on and on. We are here for all of your IDD services and supports needs. In addition to our provider members, we also have 57 state provider associations. I see that Jim's here from New Mexico and several others are here. And we also have 10 100% state associations. Debbie Jenkins from the Ohio Healthcare Association is an example of that. A 100% state association is when your state association becomes a member in a way that all of their members become full ANCOR members as well. If you'd like to know more about this, or if you'd like to start that conversation between your state association and us, just let us know. Our contact information will be at the end of this presentation. One of the benefits of being an ANCOR member is the information that we collect, we curate, and we deliver directly to you. We know that all of you can read the news, you can see the headlines, but what we try to do is we try to pull out the things that we think matter the most to your supports and the people you serve. So our stateside report is something that we put out every Monday, and this is our colleague Donna Martin pulling together all of the trends and topics that are happening on a statewide basis, but could potentially have national impact. So that's our stateside report. Capital Correspondence is sent out every Tuesday. Shannon McCracken and her team on the government relations side of things puts this together. This is anything on the federal level, legislative, regulatory policy that we think could possibly impact your services. Now, some of you might be thinking, wow, that's exactly what I need. Yet another email in my inbox. This webinar today is to remind you that when your organization is an ANCOR member, that means every single member of your staff is as well. So if you have a point person for your national trends, for your federal or policy information, we can add them directly to our mailing list and make sure that they get the information they need as well. In addition to our policy-focused communications, we also have our weekly update, which basically gives you a compendium of everything that's been happening throughout the week. That comes out every Friday. And then every month, we put out a longer newsletter. You may have remembered that this was formerly known as Links. We now call it Connections. This is a great opportunity for your organization to showcase any news that you want to share with the rest of the ANCOR community. Maybe you have an amazing promotion that you want to share. You've got a brand new executive director. You've got some new babies in your staff. Let us know, and we'll add that to Connections. We have a special column called Comings and Goings, and this is where you can put this here. Andre Floyd is our editor-in-chief, and he's happy to compile that for you. If reading isn't your thing, we try to put together every Friday afternoon our members-only briefing. This is a conversation for members only, and this is the space where we tell you all the things that we might not necessarily want to put in writing. It's the latest and greatest information. It's any kind of late breaking news that we've heard. This is our chance to share it with you and your opportunity to ask us questions. It happens during lunchtime on the East Coast, right in time for your morning coffee on the West Coast. And that is every Friday. We send a reminder out through our Anchor Connected community to let you know that it's happening every week. As an Anchor member, you and your staff will always have deep discounts to any event, both in person or virtually, that Anchor puts on. And in fact, many of them are free. Our next big event coming up is the Anchor Annual Conference. And this coming year, we're going to be in Chicago, Illinois. It's one of our favorite conference spaces, April 24, 25, and 26. And our registration for that is now open. We've got some pretty exciting things happening in this year's conference. So take a look at our website at anchor.org and be sure that at least one of your staff is registered. It is really an amazing event and a great opportunity to get to know the rest of your Anchor colleagues. We also have a webinar coming up. Our next one is going to be hosted by our very own Sean Luchtefeld. He's put together a fantastic panel talking about employee benefits as a vehicle for improving employee financial well-being and staff retention. Staff, or Sean, I know you're on here. I'm wondering if you wanted to say a word or two about the upcoming webinar.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. It sort of blends the work that I do here at Anchor with some of the work that I've done in previous chapters in my career. And we're joined by a really great group of presenters. So Mark Maynard, who is the Chief People Officer for one of our Southern California members, PathPoint. Walter Balmas, who is a product lead for a financial wellness platform called Honeybee, and Sarika Abbey, who is an associate director at the Aspen Institute's Financial Security Program, will be walking through the ways that employee benefits packages and workplaces more broadly can be drivers of financial well-being for workers with limited wages. And so it's a good discussion about how we can think about, in the absence of more resources to support our direct support professionals, how do we help them make their limited resources go further? So hope folks can join. And if you're interested, just visit anchor.org/events and you can learn more about that.
Thanks so much, Sean. Now, here are just some examples. This is not a comprehensive list, and this is just kind of a quick and easy cheat sheet on how you might think about you or some of your staff engaging with your national association. One, from time to time, you'll see us put action alerts out using our Anchor Amplifier is the tool that we used. This makes it easy to send notes, comments, letters directly to your elected officials. You can jump into any conversation you see at the Anchor Forum, which you can access at anchor.org or directly at connect.anchor.org. You can nominate yourself or apply to be a representative of your state on Anchor's Board of Representatives. You can run for a seat on the Anchor Foundation Board of Directors. There's a deadline for that coming up this week. As I was saying, another way to connect with your Anchor colleagues, you can join any group in the Anchor Connected community. We have several that are topic-based. We are building out some that will be title or role-based within your organization. So that's yet another opportunity. All of our committees are focused on our members and directed by our members. Our Government Relations Committee is probably the largest. We also have an ICF, Intermediate Care Facility Community of Practice. Our Global Council is incredibly active. We have a Professional and Organizational Development Committee, which really helps us shape our conferences, our summits, our virtual offerings throughout the year. A Communications Community of Practice, and a Grassroots Work Group. I'm going to pause and turn things over to Shannon McCracken to talk a little bit more about the grassroots work group and a couple of other opportunities that aren't even listed here.
Yes, thanks, Gab. Hey, everyone. Good to see you today. As Gab mentioned, the Government Relations Committee is a large group, and we often share things that might be more pertinent to those interested in what's happening in Washington, both in Congress and in the administration on a regular basis. We might put more wonky-ish things in there than you might find on the full forum. So if you're interested in joining that committee, just please drop me an email or anyone on my team, Elise or Lydia, and we're happy to add you to that group. And from that, under the leadership of our former Director of Advocacy and now Director of Federal Relations, Elise, the Grassroots Work Group has been re-energized in the last year. We've sent thousands of action alerts. You've sent thousands of action alerts, our members have, across the country. And so that group is not only the impetus for taking action like that, as well as across the country with our other members, but it also is starting to emerge as the leader in the space for not thinking of the right word, campaigns, strategy, as we look at different ways to move our advocacy forward. So the Grassroots Work Group is something that anyone is welcome to join as well. We are also bringing on a new position in the next year. We're excited about that as for an advocacy manager, and that person will be supporting the Grassroots Work Group as well. Gab alluded to another piece of the puzzle for our advocacy, which is our DC PAC. That doesn't stand for Washington, D.C. That stands for our Disability Champions PAC, which is our Political Action Committee. So with the guidance of our contractual lobbyist at Guide Consulting, as well as our PAC committee and co-chairs, through the PAC, we were able to strategically support our congressional champions, as well as help to advance our legislative priorities. So we look forward to working with many of you on those committees if you're interested in joining.
Thank you, ton, Shannon. Now, in order to be sure that you're getting all of the member content and information and discounts that you are entitled to, you want to be sure that you are logged in whenever you go to ANCOR.org. We've just revised our website. Hopefully, it is much easier for you to use. It's much more searchable. I know that ANCOR staff can now reliably count on finding the information that we need at our website. So we hope it's the same experience for you, but you want to be sure that you're logged in. And so just to point that out, you'll want to go to the upper right-hand side of your screen, log in, use the email that's connected to your work. So for example, I wouldn't log in with my Gmail or my MSN. I'll log in with my @anchor.org email. And that will connect you directly with your organization. For those of you that have organizations that span multiple states, you might have a selection. Do you belong to this one, or this one? So select the one that is appropriate to you. And if you remember your password, fantastic. You're probably part of the 5%. If you don't worry. It's super easy to reset your password and start all over again. I tried it this morning just to be sure, because I may or may not have remembered my own. Once you are in, you can directly access the connected community. And the connected community, which we belovedly call the ACC, is the space where 10,000 of our closest friends can get together and chat. The ANCOR staff monitor this carefully, but we do not lead the conversations. This is really members' space to ask questions amongst yourselves. Those questions can range from operational to policy focused to, hey, licensing's knocking at my door and they're telling me this. Does anybody else in any other state have this experience? It is really the safe space for members to share amongst themselves. The ANCOR Forum is kind of our catch-all space, but then as you can even see in this screenshot, there are several smaller communities. Some of them are private, some of them are open to join, which we also use to communicate with all of our committees and communities of practice. It is a busy time of year. I know a lot of you have personal deadlines and organizational deadlines. We have some here at ANCOR as well that we just wanted to be sure that you knew about. We've got our DSP of the Years coming up. This is one of the best parts of our annual conference, and we know it will be again in April in Chicago. But if you have DSPs in mind, our deadline is tomorrow. So go online, click on the link, make sure that if there are direct support professionals that you want to be sure are in the running for our DSP of the Year awards, tomorrow is the deadline. We have some vacancies coming up on the ANCOR Foundation Board of Directors, and those letters of interest are due at the end of this week, December 2nd, 2022. The Moving Mountains Award is something that we collaborate together with NADSP, the National Alliance of Direct Support Professionals, and the University of Minnesota's Institute on Community Integration. This award really showcases organizations that are working hard on workforce development and bringing the best out of their workforce. And those applications also due the end of this week. The ANCOR Foundation's Leadership Academy is the space where we are trying to build and mentor and uplift your future successors. So when you leave your organization, when that time has come, we want to be sure that it's in the right hands and that the leaders that you select have the principles, the history, the business acumen that they need to continue helping your organization thrive. So the Leadership Academy is a 2-year event. It is robust, it is interactive, it has both synchronous and asynchronous learning components to it. The deadline for that is December 14th. In addition to all of this, we also have some additional resources. I'm going to turn this over to Barbara Merrill because she has really led the charge on so many of these.
Thank you, Gab. And what we're talking about are studies and research papers, data collection points that we pull together throughout the year to advance our lobbying, to educate our members. We have just really found, I think as we all have, right? That stories are incredibly important in advancing our mission, advancing our advocacy goals, but coupling those stories, coupling the anecdotes with data pays dividends. And so some examples of recent publications include our State of the Direct Support Workforce Crisis. I hope you've seen that. We just published our third one. The first one we did was in 2020, early 2020, before March, before the pandemic became a thing. And we were prompted to do it because, for years we used to do our own DSP, turnover study, and then collaborated with NASDs and HSRI on the staff stability survey. All of that information is incredibly important. As of this year, I believe 30 states are participating in the staff stability survey. But at the end of the day, it only gives you what the turnover rate is. It only gives you the vacancy rate. We wanted to go a lot deeper. We wanted to really plumb and find out what the actual impact on the quality of services the workforce crisis has been. And so in 2020, we surveyed, we were all excited, we're going to be sharing it at our annual conference in April in person in Miami. We did not gather for that. Obviously, all of our attention was diverted to just getting through and providing our members with what you needed to get through the pandemic. But in fall of 2021, We pulled it back out. We shared it. We put another survey out in the field. The data, the results of the original 2020 result were horrifying. They weren't surprising. It finally really quantified that providers increasingly were not accepting new referrals. They were extremely worried about their quality services, and being able to comply with quality standards. We found the same result we found that it had deepened, not of course, and gotten worse during the pandemic. We put another survey out in the field this year, just published it in October, and not surprisingly, things are getting worse. This report, the 2021 report, really proved to be incredibly important. You heard from Shannon McCracken, our Vice President of Government Relations. She had an opportunity to share the results of our survey with United States Senator Chuck Schumer, who is the majority leader in the United States Senate. And as soon as he heard Shannon share with him on a group call those specific data points, he stopped her. He thanked ANCOR for collecting this data, and he asked her to send the data to every single United States senator. So, obviously incredibly important. Thank you to all of you who have responded to those surveys. We've gotten terrific results. Another example of a publication that, we really took a lot of time on, focused on alternative payment models. We have an APM work group led by our staffer, Donna Martin. That group is dedicated to really figuring out what the best practices are, for providers to really actually, drive payment model reform. And that's prompted us to publish, I think, 2 reports so far, and we've got another report that's going to be coming out soon. So, you can access all of this stuff in our resource library. We're also, we also brought back our federal wage and hour handbook. It had been a few years since we'd updated it. We've just gotten it updated. It is not a free resource. On the other hand, the member price is a bargain, and it's just chock full of the information that you need to ensure that you're complying with federal wage and hour laws. We also are very proud to partner with the United Cerebral Palsy, UCP, in the publication, the ANCOR Foundation, in the publication of the Case for Inclusion. We've been partnering with UCP in publishing that report. I think they may be going on 4 or 5 years now. Another report is going to be coming out early in 2023. So that's just a little sampling of the types of publications that you can expect from us. And in our budget for this coming year, we're planning to go even deeper. We're always interested in hearing from our members on what kind of data you think is critical. We are all obviously aware that the federal government funds an extraordinary amount of research through the USENs across the country. And we partner with several of those USENs, but the publications that we do, the research we do, is 100% dedicated to translating research into practice and advancing our strategic goals. So get in touch, right, Gab?
Get in touch. For the purposes of today's presentation, I can be your point of contact. gcdor@ancor.org is the best way to reach me. But I'm going to turn off my screen right now and open the floor to anyone that might have any comments or questions about anything that we've presented today or about your ANCOR membership in general.
We really raced through a lot of stuff, folks, but please don't be shy.
You're welcome to utilize the chat or raise your hand, and we will be sure that you are unmuted and can ask away. I do want to give a special shout out to some of the new leaders that I see on today's screen. I see Jean Ann Bienick, Amy Tabor, the new director of NAQ, and Andrea Brancati, all new executive directors, new to ANCOR membership in that space. So welcome to all of you. And Pam Wise, I see your hand is raised.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Barbara, I had a question. You said that your information was delivered to the Senate, specifically Mr. Schumer, and he wanted it sent to all of the members of the Senate. Do you know what kind of an impact that has made at this point?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the Build Back Better bill proposed by the president, as part of his huge Jobs Act, this was really specifically the care infrastructure piece. You'll recall, I think, that originally President Biden proposed $400 billion in funding for HCBS to lift up the workforce in recognition of the extraordinary crisis that not just IDD providers, but long-term supports and services providers across the populations were experiencing. That shrank to $150 billion. But honestly, it was still $150 billion. I worked at the federal level now for a number of years, and even that number still, I don't think I'll ever be casual when we talk about billions in terms of that magnitude.
So are you saying that was left in the bill? Because I was under the assumption it was cut from the bill.
It was absolutely cut from the bill, Pam.
Okay.
And I'll turn this over to Shannon McCracken in just a second. But in the end, the Build Back Better, hit a roadblock, and it hit a roadblock with Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, who was and still is extraordinarily concerned about inflation. He was concerned about the federal deficit, and in order for the Democrats to run a bill through the reconciliation process, which meant that it was going to be 100% on party lines, they had to take out the pieces that he was not going to move forward with. But nevertheless, that information is out there. The fact that the president proposed such a large amount of money, truly what would have been a transformational amount of money, is extraordinary. And we and our allies across the LTSS and disability community are working incredibly hard on moving legislation, hopefully during this lame duck session. There's only 3 weeks left. But certainly in the new Congress. Shannon, I would invite you to jump in.
I'd be happy to. And Pam, I can tell you that the impact it made is far-reaching, and is the reason we've continued to re-up the survey and share it. It has not only been recognized as a powerful data point by congressional members, but also from ACL, from Medicaid. It's continuously quoted by our partners and leaders in the space and the administration. So for that point, it's been really powerful, and they continue to look to us to provide that information. A lot of data doesn't exist, so this has been a very powerful tool. Also, I just want to reiterate what Barbara was talking about, to say the way I put it is that a very nonpartisan issue, our service system and the need for investment, got tangled up in a very partisan process.
Yeah,
that's the always. That's the only thing that stopped it. And even Senator Manchin, I have to say, he said to my face and said to us, he supported what we do. He supported that investment. It really just came down to the size of the funding package that they were willing to move forward. So we keep fighting.
Well, thank you for putting that together. And I will tell you, we've been utilizing it with our local legislators and our parents and our families, because even the families don't have a clue as to dire straits that our industry is in. So thank you for putting it together.
You're
Thank you
welcome,
for sharing.
Pam. Yeah, and thank you for asking the question. I mean, allow me just to go a little deeper on it. The fall, now that conferences are happening in person, since this summer, we've attended 3-4 conferences where at the podium, our federal partners, the folks that are running CMS, the folks who are running the Administration on Community Living, which is under the Department of Health and Human Services, are citing our survey. I saw an RFP, go out for a grant where it specifically cited our survey. Mm-hmm. IDD providers, we have been shouting from the rooftops since 2001 about the importance of the workforce shortage and the magnitude of what was going on, and how, if it wasn't addressed, it was going to eventually lead to where it is today. It took a long time. Policymakers, they always think they're always gonna just slightly underpay you, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, providers always continued to provide services to people. Well, that stopped. Mm-hmm. And that's the import of our data. And so that's why I believe, the amount of legislation that was passed through COVID was incredibly unusual for Congress. Normally, you're lucky if you get a bill passed in 3 years or 5 years. So there were so many pandemic relief bills that specifically helped IDD providers, as well as all healthcare providers and Americans, mm-hmm. right, go through. We are not going to give up. And I believe that we have crossed into a place where we're going to start seeing bipartisan support. But obviously, we all are going to have to work incredibly hard to get that.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for leading the charge.
So we got real serious there, folks, but maybe what others might be thinking about a question, and Gab, interrupt me if folks have their hand up, but Gab really quickly went through using the ANCOR Connected community. I just want to reinforce how valuable, that tool is, that platform for us. I often describe it as just a very sophisticated listserv, but this is how sophisticated it is. You have, unlike a listserv where it just, fills up your inboxes and you delete them and you can't go back, and it's very hard to kind of figure out who was it that asked that question. Yes, the communications will come into your inbox. You can calibrate how often you receive them. But the great thing is, if you can't find the email, you can just log in, go on the ANCOR forum or whatever community you're in, and you will be able to go back through and find the questions someone asked, the answers that were provided. The library, it's just a wonderful place where documents live, and it doesn't add to your inbox, right? No one tells you that you're out of space, unlike Google.
You just touched on a sensitive issue at my house, Barbara.
Right.
The paying for the Google storage. I was just looking in my inbox to kind of show folks where you can go to adjust your settings. At the bottom of any single email that you get that's generated through the ANCOR Connected community, there will be a footer at the bottom that says my subscriptions, my notifications, and that's directly linked to your profile at anchor.org and at connect.anchor.org. And from there, you can tell us, this topic interests me. I want to see what's going on in real time, which is the default setting. Or you can say, you can catch me up every Friday or every Thursday or every Sunday. You can get a daily digest. You can get a weekly digest. You can choose the time of day and the week that you get your compilation of emails. So if you need a little bit more email management, that is one space that you can get it, and be sure that you're not missing out.
And sharing just maybe even a little bit more about that, as Gabrielle said, when you when you post a question or answer a question or see people chatting on the ANCOR forum, it's a very wide audience. So, it's 10,000 people. So we do ask you to think about and be careful, right, with what you post. Yes, it's a safe space. On the other hand, it's 10,000 people. So, sometimes you might want to just reply privately to the person that posted the question. So just look very carefully when you go to reply on how you can do that. You'll have that option of replying to the group online or replying privately. We encourage public discussion, but I will take down a conversation in a second if people are asking about wages, if people are asking about anything that can even begin to look like an antitrust area where associations can't go in, but that's rare. It's been what, maybe I've taken 3 down. We've taken 3 discussions down in 10 years. It's just really, really, really helpful. So, all right. So Gab, you're going to send the slide deck out, right?
We'll send out the slide deck, the recording, and we should get that to folks relatively soon so that you're welcome to share with any other new members of your staff or staff that would like a refresher.
Yeah, look around, think about what's interesting to you. The foundation has just been doing extraordinary things in over the last 4 or 5 years under Gabrielle's leadership. It's just truly building the leadership of tomorrow and advancing our diversity, equity, and inclusion work. The ANCOR Global Council. I have the honor of staffing that. What a group! Pretty fantastic group. A subset of the group is doing a study tour to India in the fall. Previously, they went to the Inclusion International Conference. We're perhaps even talking about a study tour to Australia in 2024, 2025. You'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, how many ANCOR members provide services across the country. But most of the people that belong to the Global Council belong because they want to be engaged and they just love being connected with their peers across the world. So many opportunities. So with that, Gab, I'll pass it to you to close if we don't have any other questions.
That's the list. If we shut down the Zoom and that's the point in time where you remember the question that you wanted to ask, feel free to email myself, Barbara, Shannon, Sean, or anchor@anchor.net or anchor.org, and it will get to where it needs to be, anchor@anchor.org. Have a wonderful afternoon. Slides and recording are coming to you soon. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you and appreciate your membership. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.